Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly edit. This is where we take one thought, one belief, or one pattern and just look how it is shaping the life that we are creating. How are you all doing? I am doing better and better each week. We are settling in. Okay, still quite a bit to do, but we are getting there. All right, so today I am looking at the idea of well, this is the idea. What happened to you is not as important to your future as what you are thinking about what happened to you. Now, that sentence can sound as though I am maybe minimizing a painful experience for you or suggesting that people are responsible for the harm that is done to them. But that's not what I'm talking about here. There is a very important difference between being the victim of something and continuing to live from a victim mentality. And I know all about being a victim, so stay with me here. Now, a person can genuinely be a victim. It can be a victim of abuse, of neglect, of discrimination, of cruelty, betrayal, or even circumstances that they don't have the power to prevent. So we can all see ourselves as victims because we have a different set of circumstances than most people. We are parents of autism. Now, a child is not responsible for what an adult does to them. A parent is not responsible for a professional treating their child poorly. You are not responsible for another person's behavior, but you do have the power over what you do decide to do after the event. You have the power over the meaning that you give that event. You have the power over whether it becomes one chapter in your life or the explanation for the rest of your life. So, one of the central teachings of Byron Katie, I don't know if you've ever looked at her work, no matter, I'll explain what I mean, is that so much of our suffering is created internally. We believe that our pain is caused by another person or by the past or by what's happening around us. But often our continued suffering is because it's caused by the thoughts that we have, that we keep thinking about those things. Now, it doesn't mean that those events, those external events were harmless. It just means the event and your current thinking about that event are two separate things. Perhaps your child wasn't supported by the school properly. That happened. That's a fact. And you may think that they have failed my child. And then you think no one can be trusted, a professional can't be trusted. I'm always going to have to fight for everything. Professionals don't care. My child's never going to be misunderstood. Now, that first thought may be accurate, maybe an accurate description of what happened, but the others that start to create a much larger story, a story about professionals, a story about the future, a story about your place or your child's place in the world, a story that says you've got to be angry and you've got to be on guard and you've got to be ready to battle every time in order to protect your child. And your brain is going to call this protection. But living in that permanently prepares us for conflict the whole time. And that is so exhausting. Now, the school may have been the original problem, but your thoughts may now be creating your emotional experience after the fact. Now, we often believe that our judgments are just observations. We may say things like, he is selfish, or she doesn't care, or they are incompetent, or he should understand, or she should behave differently, or they should know better, they shouldn't have done that. And we feel justified because we have got lots of evidence to back that up. Everything for this judgment. But the question isn't whether the judgment is accurate. The more useful question is, what happens to me when I think that? When you keep thinking someone's selfish, what happens? You experience anger, perhaps, resentment, disappointment. When you think people don't care, maybe you experience loneliness or distrust. When you think that somebody should be different, you place your emotional well being in the hands of that person that you can't control. Now, the person that you are judging, is happily going to go on with their lives. They're going to carry on with their day. You are the one who's carrying all that emotion, that anger. That is why your judgments often cause you more pain than they cause the person that you are judging. So your judgment may feel like it's a weapon aimed at other people, but actually you're the one who's hanging onto the blade. So Byron Katie has this worksheet, I think it's called Judge Your Neighbor. And the idea is that you write down all your judgments about whatever's going on, about that other person. And you don't censor yourself on this worksheet. You don't try to be kind or anything. You just tell the truth as you see it. They don't listen. They are controlling. They are judgmental. They expect too much. They don't respect me. Then you examine whether any part of that judgment also applies to you. And I love this exercise because it has really opened my eyes. So, for example, where am I not listening? Where am I trying to control them? Where am I judging them? Where am I expecting them to be someone they're not? Where am I where am I not respecting my own boundaries or needs or decisions? So this isn't about excusing the other person. It's just about bringing your attention back to the only person that you can directly change. Trying to change another person's personality can become a full-time job with a crappy salary and even worse benefits, okay? So what look at your own thoughts. Where do they give you a place to be productive? It's a place to put your energy in. The moment you stop making your freedom dependent on another person changing, you are not going to get anywhere. You are not taking back your power. All right, so when someone behaves badly, we often absorb their behavior as information about us. So if someone criticizes you, you may think there's something wrong with you. If someone rejects you, you may think you're not worthy. If someone mistreats your child, you may think that the world is unsafe. But another person's behavior is just evidence of what is happening inside of them. Their anger belongs to them. Their cruelty belongs to them. The judgment belongs to them. Their inability to understand belongs to them. You don't have to make it part of you and your identity. You can decide that that behavior tells me something about them, not about me. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to stay in a harmful situation. You can still establish boundaries. You can leave, you can report wrongdoing, you can advocate powerfully. And there is enormous freedom in allowing other people to be them while you own what is true for you. And most of us, want to think that we are compassionate and that we are loving people. But we all have judgmental thoughts. We all have thoughts that are defensive, maybe bitter and unkind. We have moments where we hate somebody. We have moments where we want another person to suffer consequences. We have thoughts that we would never say aloud. And we often try to hide those parts of us because we feel that it makes us bad people. But what we refuse to see in ourselves, we often project onto the world. So the more aggressively we judge ourselves, the more aggressively we are going to judge other people. And when you can look at your least attractive thoughts and say, of course, this is my human brain, you become less frightened of yourself. You no longer need to pretend. You can acknowledge the judgment without acting from it. You can offer yourself the compassion without approving every thought or behavior. And when you stop requiring yourself to be perfect, you become less demanding of everyone else around you. So it's worth doing a self-check occasionally. Have you started judging more often? Have you started viewing people with suspicion? Have you started looking for evidence that life is unfair or people are unsafe or nothing's going to improve? Have you lost the plot? Your mind's always going to find evidence for the story that you give it. So I'm going to give you two sentences. So I want you to consider them. The first one is, this is an extraordinary time to be alive. And the second one is, this is a dangerous world where people are constantly being hurt. Now, you could very possibly gather evidence for both of them. Neither sentence changes the world, but each sentence changes what you notice. Now, the first sentence, you may look for possibility and opportunity and support and progress. The second makes you look for danger and rejection and betrayal and reasons to stay small. Now, with the first sentence, you are still going to encounter challenges while still believing that life contains opportunity. You're still going to experience kindness while believing that the world is unsafe. But your dominant thoughts are going to act as a filter. It decides which evidence you're going to collect and which evidence you're going to overlook. So two people can live through exactly similar circumstances and experience entirely different lives because they are viewing those circumstances through a different lens, through different sentences. Now, we often believe the person that has hurt us should take responsibility and make us feel better. Now, in the perfect world, they would. They would understand, they would apologize, they would change, they would maybe repair what they said. But what happens when they don't? Do you postpone your healing until they've changed or they become a different person? Do you hand them that permanent authority over your emotions? Now, holding people accountable may be appropriate, waiting for them to say sorry or give you the power to heal it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So your power is not in getting them to understand what you did. Your power is deciding what you are going to create right now. It's not who is responsible for what's happening, because that's sometimes the answer there is obvious. The more useful question is, what do I want to do with my life from here? That is radical responsibility. Not taking the blame, but taking the lead. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to acknowledge injustice. But you don't have to build your identity around what someone else did. What happens to you does matter. Of course it does. But what you think about it will determine whether that experience remains a difficult one or becomes a source of strength. And you cannot always choose what happens, but you can decide which sentence will carry you forward. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you want to discuss more, please join the private Facebook group and we can carry on from there. All right, this is what I have for you. So I will speak to you again next week. Bye for now.